Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to a very special edition of the I Am the Possible podcast experience. Yes, this is the place where possibilities become perspective. Guys, welcome into the space and into the place where my mission is to give perspectives on life that give life to what's possible in life, in your life most importantly. Now, let me just lay out some ground rules for you today, okay? Because this is a very special edition. I'm on vacation. I'm on a little personal self-discovery retreat that I do every year. And so right now I'm in a hotel as I'm recording this. And so I'm going to keep my voice a little lower than normal. I'm not going to get as animated maybe as normal. I'm gonna still keep it a buck. I'm gonna still be me. But just you'll maybe notice that I'm just not speaking as loudly as maybe I would normally speak. Maybe not as animated as I usually am. And if you're watching on the tube, and you should be watching on the tube, then you'll also notice my background. I'm not at my home studio. I am on location here in my hotel room, but I wanted to continue to provide you with the value that I believe God has created me to provide you. And so I didn't even want to take a week off now that I'm here on vacation. So let's get into it, man. All right. First off, before I even get into the title and what we're talking about today, I just want to thank you all so much for the support. Guys, you have been supporting me like it's mind blowing. It's such a blessing. I'm just so grateful for how you guys have, continued to show up, download, support, send in questions. Yeah, man, leave reviews, comments. It's just been such a blessing. And I'm just so grateful and so thankful for each and every one of you for contributing to me as I look to contribute to you. So thank you so, so much. As I've always said, your presence is the greatest present that you guys could ever offer me. So I just want to thank you. Just wanted to pause for the cause, okay? And you are certainly the cause. So today I have entitled this one, How to Create a Winning Version of Yourself. How to create a winning version of yourself. And I'm just going to let the cat right out the bag up front. It's not so much about creating anything as much as it is about allowing what's already there. I mean, for me, that's I guess you want to call it a niche. I guess you would call it my unique approach, my unique work that God's given me to do, to be an advocate for the already, to be a voice for the already, to bring forth a greater awareness and appreciation for what you already are. Because we live in a world where we're always put in a position of trying to catch up, keeping up with the Joneses, or trying to catch up with those people that are around us. We always feel like we're in some sort of competition, or we're comparing ourselves to others. And it's not really worth much of anything. If anything, it complicates, it confuses us, it clutters, it creates chaos, it creates just unnecessary drama and trauma in and through our lives. And so when I, entitled this Creating a Winning Version of Yourself, it's more about the concept that you have of yourself and allowing yourself to allow you to breathe, to live, to have life. Even as the Bible talks about having life to the full. I believe that a part of Jesus's life and a part of what Jesus was here to do was to show us what it meant, even as my mentor shared with me many years ago, to show us what it meant to be fully human, to be fully ourselves. And so if you are at a a space and a place in your life, a season in your life where you don't feel like you're winning. You don't feel like you're able to be yourself. You don't feel like you're able to really live this thing out, to really have the victory that you desire to see in your life. Maybe there are some things that are going on and you just don't feel like you can get past them, or there's some complications in your life and you don't feel like you're winning, like you're coming up over the mountain. You feel suffocated. You feel like something's holding you down, something's holding you back. Then I believe that, as I've always taught, right, my signature framework, going from the concept, the self-concept, to the self-conversation moves you into the capacity, the self-capacity. And it's in that capacity that you are able to create whatever type of change that you need to create in your life. And so today, as we talk about creating the winning version of yourself, it's really about allowing yourself to do what you've already been created to do, to be who you've already been created to be. And a lot of this is simply giving yourself permission. And I'm going to use a very fascinating discovery and illustration to really unpack this for us and to help us explore this. It's truly an exploration, right? I always say, if you want to level up, what do? We level down. We look beneath the surface. We go in and we see what's down there so we can lay a foundation in which we can truly build a lasting life and legacy upon, right? And so if we want to build a winning version of ourselves, a winning concept of ourselves, we have to do some exploring. We have to discover what's already there. Because many times we're trying to do something that someone's conditioned us to do, trained us to do, convinced us that we need to do. We're trying to live out a personality. We're trying to live out attributes, skill sets. We're trying to be a version of ourselves that's anything other than who we truly and authentically are. And so today it's all about really discovering what's already there. All right. And I'm just going to adjust this mic just a bit here because I want to get the branding in the video. That's why we created this branding. All right. Just want to keep the branding in the video. And I got this weird setup over here. So just pardon me for just a moment. Just want to just readjust this just to make sure that the branding stays in the video. All right, cool. Let's do that. Let's do this. All right. I am the possible, right? You know where we are, know what we're doing. Just want to keep that in the shot. All right. Cool. So let's look at something that I found very interesting. I was watching this documentary on, was it Hulu? I want to say it was Hulu. Yeah, Hulu. It's called Pole to Pole with Will Smith. And Will Smith, man, he's been such an inspiration in my life, minus, slapping Chris Rock. But overall, he's been really an inspiration in my life in terms of just someone, even beyond the movies. He's someone that allows himself to embrace, like, for as much as he can, right, within his own framework, like all that life has to offer. Like all that life has to offer. I remember watching him in Dubai, and that was the first time that I'd ever discovered that underground city or that underground hotel. It's like this diving pool, and like Will Smith was on the edge and he like dove down into this underground world. And it was just like, wow, there's so much of life. And that's just one example, but there's so much to life that we don't experience many times because we just don't give ourselves permission to experience all that life has for us. It's not that God doesn't want that for us. It's not that it's not available. It's not that it's not accessible. It's not possible, but it's that we don't give ourselves permission. And I'm going to continue to push that word, permission, to green light our own lives, to move forward and to have a winning version, a winning concept of ourselves. And you can take that word, put it in whatever context you need to put it in, right? When I say winning, put it in whatever framework, you name it, you claim it, you put in into whatever, context you need to put it into. But the word winning for you, it just needs to be whatever that looks like for you. Okay. Excuse the little sound over there. And so, like I said, Will Smith's been such an inspiration in my life for many, many years. And so he did this documentary, Pole to Pole. He's basically starting at the South Pole and traveling all the way to the North Pole. And I think it's maybe 5 or 6 different episodes, but with every episode, and I'm not going to go through each episode, but through every episode, he goes to an extreme like country or land, and he works with these individuals that are third world or just off the grid, off the map, people and tribes and these indigenous people that we would never think about. They would never be on our American Western radar. We would never talk about them. We would never think about them. Languages. There was one episode where they were trying to capture a language because these people were on the verge of being extinct because they have this island like in the middle of this ocean, man. And the people were like on the verge of extinction, right? It was wild, man. And so they were working with these people to just preserve their language, to preserve their history. And so they were recording it, and it was just so fascinating. But again, I don't want to go through each and every episode, but there's one particular episode when he finally gets to the North Pole. And I do highly suggest that you check it out because it just opens your mind up to all types of things that you would just never experience or never really think about. But he finally gets to the North Pole, and he's met with, I forgot what specific Asian heritage this woman was from, but you could tell that she was Asian, and she was I forgot what specific kind of scientist she was, but she was looking for this particular, and I'm gonna share the slide so I don't start saying it wrong. I even put the pronunciation of it on the slide. I'm gonna share it in just a moment. But she was looking for these little organisms that are like super fascinating, super powerful. And I wanted to leverage that organism and parallel that with you, with me, with us, to help us discover, to create, cultivate this winning version, this winning concept of ourselves. Because again, you winning is not about you having to acquire a whole lot more or do something that's just opposite of who you are. Winning is not about going back to school necessarily or getting more degrees necessarily or conforming to something new. My philosophy is the winning version of you is the version that you've always been, but you've never given yourself permission to be. I'm gonna say that one more time. The winning version of you is the version of you that you have always been, but you've never given yourself permission to be. It's not about something new. It's about what's always been. And the discoveries, the evolution, the growth, the development is in an allowance. We've never been allowed. We've never been given permission to give ourselves permission to just allow ourselves to just be as we are. I know you've grew up and you've probably heard this question before. I know it's such an innocent question, but ask yourself, have you ever heard this question before? What are you going to be when you grow up? You remember that one? What are you going to be when you grow up? Man. It would have been nice now looking back at it in hindsight. Again, that's an innocent question. I get their intention. But it would have been even nicer, better, more edifying to not just say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? But for parents and leaders and those in our community to have given us an idea of what we already were. Hey, you are the image of God. Hey, you are something special. Hey, you are something powerful. Hey, you are the possible. Hey, you are something grand and something uniquely shaped, uniquely designed and fashioned and created and brought into this world. And you have a great opportunity to use your life as clay to form and to shape and to bend and to mold and to become something that aligns with what God's already put in you. I know that's pretty heavy. I know that's a lot. And I know most parents didn't know all that. And most people in our community didn't have that capacity to say all those things. And I get that part. But it's still worth saying. Like, wouldn't it have been awesome for them to not only ask us what we're going to become, but to also build us up in what we already were? Again, I'm an advocate for the already. All right. But let me share this slide, man. Let me get into what I wanted to share with you guys. And I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. I can see all these little buttons down here. Here, let me share my screen. I'm gonna share this little presentation with y'all, man. Check this out, y'all. Look at this. And I hope my little button is not in the way. I hope you guys can just see this on your screen. All right, so I'm gonna move this over here. All right. So this is a picture of the little micro or the little organism that they were looking for in this pole to pole documentary. It's pronounced phytoplankton, microscopic plant life organisms that drift in the upper sunlight layers of oceans and lakes, often called the lungs of the ocean. Have you ever heard of these things? Come on. If you're listening or watching, have you ever heard of a phytoplankton? Right? These little microscopic. Will Smith couldn't even see these things. You could not see these things. They had to put it under a microscope. It's a microscopic plant life organism that drifts in the upper sunlight layers of oceans and lakes, often called literally the lungs of the ocean. And here's what's powerful. They produce, check this out, they produce approximately half, 50% of the Earth's, not city, not country, not state, not a little piece of land, not a little island on the coast of, no, of the Earth's, the globe, the world's oxygen through photosynthesis and form the foundational. Listen, that means it's everything else is based upon this, built upon this. It is the foundational base of nearly all aquatic food webs. Guys, this thing is microscopic. Can't see it. It's small in size. But here it comes. It's large in its significance. Even in the documentary, there was a moment where Will Smith said, and we've been giving the trees all the credit. We've been giving the trees all the credit for oxygen. I've said it. I know I'm guilty of it. You know, when you're using some example or you're making some example, you'll say, oh, so what's the purpose of trees? Well, they give us oxygen. If it wasn't for the trees, we couldn't breathe. Well, not so much. If we didn't have trees, we still have phytoplanktons, microscopic, tiny itty bitty little organisms that none of us even know exist, can't barely pronounce it. And yet they are helping us to breathe. Small in size, massive in significance. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Yeah. How many of us have been overlooked, right? How many of you have been overlooked, right? Hey, let me make sure that my screen is going back to where I needed to go back to. All right, here we go. Right? That's real talk, right? How many of us have been made to feel small? How many of us have been looked over? How many of us feel like no one even notices us? How many of us feel like we're nobodies? Like we're like people step on us, people neglect us, reject us. We become throwaways in people's minds. They cut us off. Maybe when you were younger, like me, right? Your caregivers, or just those in your community, right? They just didn't regard you as being very significant at all. And yet you are here. And if you are here, then it means that purpose preceded you. It's nothing in this world that exists outside of purpose. Purpose precedes the production of anything. The only reason that you're here is because of purpose. Your presence is the evidence that you have a purpose to support the success of something else. And that's what I wanted to show you that illustration for. These phytoplanktons, none of us I can't barely pronounce the doggone thing. None of us probably have even heard of these things before, unless we're really deep into science or we're just really into documentaries or, the Discovery Channel or the History Channel. And maybe we've heard about it at some point. But very few of us, I would guess, are very intimate with these organisms. Think about them think about them often, or, consider them a source of oxygen. And yet, if it wasn't for these little organisms, these little microscopic things that you can't even see, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even be breathing, or at least 50% of our oxygen would be gone. And here's something else, and I don't want to butcher it, but the reason that they were going to the North Pole to get these things was because the scientists believed that, right now with the global warming, right? And that's a whole nother topic, right? But there's always a problem that precedes your, presence, because the purposes for which you were created was to solve the problem, right? There has to be a problem, then there's your purpose, and then there's your presence. And so anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But even here, the reason that she was going there was because she believed that they and we could leverage the power of these phytoplanktons because they create oxygen. But here's the thing. Remember when I was reading that little description, they do it through photosynthesis. But what happens during that process, it takes carbon dioxide, these scientific words, the carbon out of the air. Okay. Maybe you guys can put it together a little better. But basically, with us always burning fuels, the gas, fuels that we burn, all the junk that we keep putting up in the air, in the atmosphere, it takes that junk and it converts it. These little microscopic things takes all that junk that we're creating, the problem that we're creating for ourselves, and jacking up our ozone layer and jacking up our weather and everything. God's already given us these little micro things that are on the edges of the earth, underneath this ice. And if we could, in a sense, leverage its power for converting the garbage that we're putting in the atmosphere, we could flip this whole thing around. We could extend the years that we have on this earth. We can do some amazing things. We can re-engineer by harnessing the power of these little microscopic organisms. Why do I bring all of this up? Because they are small in size, but massive in significance. And so are you. The winning version of you is understanding that although everyone else overlooks you, never even considered that you were anything or anybody, that's not evidence that you're insignificant. That's not evidence that you don't matter. That's not evidence. That's an indictment. It can be used as evidence, and it often is when we're younger because we don't have any other information to go off of. But it's not truth. It's not facts. It's not reality. It's not real. It's an opinion. It's an option. It's a perspective that you no longer have to adopt, that you no longer have to nurture, that you no longer have to accept, that you no longer have to buy into. And today I'm just presenting to you an option to consider the fact that although you have been made to be small in other people's eyes, and by taking that junk on, you've now adopted a lens in which you look through and you see yourself as small, you can re-engineer this thing. You can reverse this thing. You can turn this thing around. You don't have to continue to see yourself so small. You don't have to continue to think of yourself so small. It's not about physical stature. When I say small, I'm talking about significance. I'm talking about importance. I'm talking about worthiness. I'm talking about worth. I'm talking about value, intrinsic and extrinsic. I'm talking about you in and of yourself, because here's what I know. Here's what I know. You already got the stuff. You already got a vision. You already got products. You already got services. You already got ministry. You already got a desire. You already got something that you want to do to serve and support the success of someone else. You already got it. And if you don't have it all written down on paper and all fancy, you got a heartbeat. There's not the one that's in your chest, but the heartbeat of your life. There's something in you where you want to help somebody else in a specific way, and you're afraid to because the internet has told you it's not profitable. Social media told you that it's not marketable. Your friends and family told you that you can't do it because they don't believe that they can do it. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And I want you to realize, just like those phytoplanktons are microscopic, but they are so vitally important to our literal survival. And they have the bonus of being able to have the capacity to take all the junk that we're putting in the atmosphere and flipping it and being used to create oxygen for us to continue to expand our life on this planet. Are you serious? So the question is, what do you have? What do you have? That's my challenge to you. I don't have 5 steps for you today. I don't have 3 steps and 10 steps. I just have an idea that I want you to consider. Because what I am learning more and more and more is that we have so much already. It's that we don't give ourselves permission to use what we already have. We don't give ourselves permission to make a move with what we already have. You don't need more. You just need more permission to use what you already have. You could be making a huge difference. You could be winning in so many new ways, in so many powerful ways, if you just gave yourself permission to do anything. And so consider your position. Consider where you are in life, and consider the fact that you're there because of the way that you think about yourself. Which means, and that is good news, which means wherever you want to be, it's a matter of how you think about yourself. Because when you revolutionize the way you think about yourself, you're going to revolutionize what you think is possible for yourself and for those around you. This is not about being selfish. This is about being significant where it matters most, in your own mind. The more important you believe you are, with godly humility, as they say, it's a delicate dance. It's under and in God. I'm humble in the fact that I know that my source ultimately is a creator that has purposed me and has designed me for something amazing. And in respect to that, I think very well of myself, because I understand that if I think poorly of myself, then I'm not going to do much. I'm not going to be about much. And does that really bring glory to God? Does shrinking back really bring glory to God? If you really want to please God, if you really want to bless God, if you really want to go all out, you really want to show your faith, if you want to do anything that pleases God or put a smile on God, God's, face, because some of us are driven by that, then this is how you do it. By believing in yourself. We do a good job of believing in God, but God wants us to believe in ourselves. And I know for some of us, you're like, oh, that sounds crazy. Okay, well, keep doing what you're doing. It's okay. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to offer a new way of thinking about things, life. Remember, perspectives on life that give life to what's possible in life, your life, most importantly. That's my job. I offer the perspective. And if you want more help, I offer the coaching and the other supportive services. But on this podcast, I offer the perspective. And you can do with it what you will. I hope and pray that you hear my heart. I hope and pray that you would consider these things. That you would really consider yourself. Doesn't matter what they said or what they did. The responsibility is now still on you to say, yep, just like them phytoplanktons that Will Smith and the scientists found in the North Pole. Someone somewhere cares about me. Someone somewhere thinks and believes that I'm important too. Sometimes the people that will value you and cherish you most, sometimes it's not a magic formula, but sometimes they start to show up when you start to show up for yourself, when you start to believe in your own value. Because the people that don't think you worth very much, well, they're with you now because you're not thinking very much of yourself. The more you start thinking more of yourself, then the more you'll start attracting. And again, not a magic formula, not a magic pill, but you'll start, at least in my own life, you'll start to attract people that will value you and honor you and support you. All right. That's it, man. The winning version of yourself, creating a winning version of yourself is simply about creating a version of yourself that gives yourself permission to just allow what already is. Give yourself permission to be as you already are. All right. As always, I've got links down below in the description, resources that are available, coaching that is available. Hit me up directly at Travell@IamThePossible.com for any personal questions you may have about this episode, any thing that you might, want to ask me personally offline. Love to respond to you directly. Also, please leave a review or comments here on YouTube or on any social media, well, obviously any social media platform that you're watching it on, but any podcasting platforms that you're watching this on. Please leave comments, questions. Would love to interact with you. And yeah, man. Yep, I'm here. I'm here for you. All right. Love you guys, praying for you guys, believing in you guys. This has been another episode, another experience here, even on vacation. Look at my dedication, man. Even on vacation, I have dedication, right, to continue to show up for you guys. Love you guys, praying for you guys, believing in you guys. This is Travell C.W. Lynch, Mr. What? This is the I Am the Possible podcast experience, the place where possibilities become perspective.